Hey guys, my name is Katie Moreno and I am the founder of organizedadvisor.com, and I recently got my MJE certification, and I was asked to present my reflection for the project that I turned in as part of the certification process. So whenever you get your MJE, there's two parts. You have to take the test and then you have to do a project and write a reflection for it. So I wanted to walk through mine. But also, just so you know, on the MJE website, let me move myself out of my way, there is this rubric. And so this is really what I use as the outline to know what I needed to include in the project reflection. So it talks about how we need to include what the goals of the project were, any challenges that you ran across, what the impact is, how it aligns to the JEA standards, all of that sort of stuff is in this rubric. So I would definitely recommend starting there. And then I broke down all my sections based on this information. So this is where I started. Also, I made mine on a website because my project was a website, so that made sense, and it was easy to link everything together and show examples. But you're more than able to do this with like a slideshow or a Google Doc or something that you're still able to even include links to your project assets and stuff like that. But for me, it was just easiest to do it as a website, or a web page. And so I started it by talking about how I started Organized Advisor. If you're not familiar, it's a website that I created in 2017. And at that point, it was just to share resources with each other. And I talked about kind of how I saw this need in Facebook groups and why I have a background in web design. And so I felt like I could build this. But then very quickly, I ran into some challenges. So the next section is the early challenges that I ran into. First and foremost being copyright. Like, I wanted to share resources, which is typically totally fine to do on a one-to-one basis. But since I was going to be hosting these resources and kind of putting them out to the public, in teaching, it's really common to share things that you got from someone else. And, a lot of the resources in the journalism industry are from yearbook publishers. And so obviously I didn't want to run into any copyright issues. That's not just that I didn't want to, run into that, but I wholeheartedly don't believe in that. I think that especially as journalism teachers, copyright is priority number one. And so I was trying to figure out a way that we could share resources and be helpful to each other and not have to copy and paste email addresses from a Facebook group. But that was kind of a tricky thing to figure out. And then also just time. Like, I was a teacher, I was busy, I was constantly, advising my 2 publications, I was teaching 5 preps by myself. Like, it was tough. And so that was a challenge as well. Back in 2017, 2018, 2019, when I was doing Organized Advisor as a side gig. It's still, not my full-time job. I'm still freelancing, but I'm not a classroom teacher anymore. And that's a whole other story. But, I was running into that time constraint a lot. My heart was in it, and I wanted to do Organized Advisor and make it be a helpful resource. But I kind of built it, and then it was stagnant for a few years. But then I talk about the turning point, and I think it's really important in your project to walk through the story of how you put it together. Talking about those challenges and how you overcame them, I think, is really an important part of displaying the journey, because I think in teaching, we are constantly telling our students to tell that whole story, the beginning, middle, and end. And if you just talk about how your project is perfect and how it's great at the end, the MJE certification committee, doesn't really see that behind the scenes. And I think it's good to show that vulnerability is important and that you overcame it. And really, you overcoming it is more important than the actual challenge that it was. So my turning point was obviously leaving the classroom in 2019. I started freelancing and doing Organized Advisor, but more on a consultative basis. And so I was teaching a lot of workshops, and I was doing one-on-one consultations with staffs and advisors. And then COVID hit, and kind of everything changed at that point. I started noticing a ton of traffic on the site from brand new advisors. A lot of advisors quit and either retired or moved out of the industry because it's a tough job. And so we saw a ton of new advisors, and I was noticing that there were a different set of needs now. It wasn't just about sharing resources, but it was advisors desperately looking for resources, yes, but also just what the heck am I supposed to do? Like, how do I organize this and that sort of thing. So I kind of refocused, and I made organizedadvisor.com have 2 goals. One is just reduce the amount of overwhelm that advisors, in particular new advisors, feel, and then also train new advisors. So getting content in the hands of teachers who are great teachers. They might come from a background of English, or they come from a background of art or whatever, history or math, and then they don't have that journalistic education background, or they're a great English teacher, but they don't know design or photography, or they're a great art teacher and they don't know writing. You know, there's a lot of like holes in that position when you're voluntold to be the advisor, or you volunteer for it and you're excited for it. It's still overwhelming. And so reducing that amount of overwhelm was my primary goal. And so that's really when things changed. I also included our mission just because it's all over our website. It's the core of everything we do, and that is to equip advisors with the tools they need to confidently build a thriving journalism program. That's kind of vague because we produce a lot of different kinds of tools, but that is at the heart of everything that we do. So I thought that was important at this point in the storytelling part of my project, is to say, like, at this point we became very mission minded, and everything we do goes back to that. So then, because my project was the actual website, I linked a bunch of the resources that are available on the site. So the posts, we do blog posts that have a bunch of different types of content. Some of it's just straight up advice. Some of it includes projects. Some of it has downloads. There's all kinds of resources in the post section. Then we have some downloads, and so on our site you can go straight to the downloads page, and it's broken down by topic. And so we have a bunch of like printables or worksheets or projects or lessons. We really try and stay away from straight up lesson plans, because the JEA curriculum already accomplishes all of that, or we point to the other curriculums that are out there that are already accomplishing everything that they need to, and they're wonderful. And so our goal is more so to teach advisors how to use those resources and point to them. So it's definitely a partnership with the existing organizations out there. It's in no way competition. And it's really important that we also remain publisher agnostic. So we don't endorse or work with exclusively any sort of publisher. We serve all advisors first. We really don't care who you publish with. And honestly, I make it a point to not even give opinions on that, because every publication, every staff, every school environment is different, and that's just not my place. You'll have to determine what your needs are, and that's, you know, you can interview companies and stuff like that. And I'm here more to give you maybe a list of questions you need to ask them. So it's more so teaching and empowering the advisors how to do their job. Because when they do their job with confidence and excellence, then they're more likely to enjoy it, be less overwhelmed, and then stay and not be having so much turnover like we've seen in the past couple of years. So moving on, we also have videos. We have a YouTube channel. This is a relatively recent addition to Organized Advisor, because I kept having a bunch of people ask questions. Hey, do you have this? Do you have a resource on this? And to be honest, I'm just one person and I can't answer to all of the advisors across the country. So when I would receive a question, I started putting them in YouTube videos, and then I can send that out whenever I'm asked multiple times, or it creates a library of resources for advisors as well, in a much more interactive way than just a download does. So that's something that we're going to continue to increase over the next couple of years too. And then I talked about where we are now. And so, like I said, it was just me. That's expanded in the past year also. So I have a bunch of trainers across the country. So if I can't personally be on the consultation, or I can't personally teach the workshop, I have a bunch of wonderful advisors across the country that I can call on to help as well. We've also increased our services, and so we do the consultation, we do the workshops, we do all of that. But we also have a planner that we created last year that was really fun to put together. It was really successful. Advisors loved it. We have a lot of changes to make for the next year to make it even better, but that was a really cool resource to provide advisors with the organizational tools they need tangibly to build a journalism program. And so that was great. Since then, we've also released a shop. And so we have clothing. Like I was wearing this hoodie at a workshop, and someone asked me if they could buy one, and I was like, I just bought this on Etsy. But I was able to create a way for advisors to buy shirts that say Yearbook Advisor, which is really uncommon because a lot of teacher stuff doesn't talk about yearbook at all, or journalism or newspaper or anything. So I was trying to create resources or tools or things that make advising fun. And so that's a work in progress now as well, but that's happened since I even put this together. So then I talked about our community and how we've grown. We have a really engaged email audience. We have a really active YouTube community. Our open rates and our click rates for the email is way higher than industry standards. So I think that that's important to highlight and show that like there is a hungry audience of advisors that need resources. And so the goal of serving those advisors is absolutely being met with the content we're creating. So then I talked a little bit about the resources that we are looking forward to in 2023. We have a lot of goals. I have like 200 ideas in the bank ready to go. So it's really hard to pick only a few to work on each year. But, there's some things that we really want to focus on in the next year and really growing our audience to be able to put our resources in more hands of advisors that need them. And then lastly, we have how it connects to the JEA standards. And so I went through each of the standards that JEA offers on their website, and I wrote how it connects and then gave examples of each one. And so this is something, again, you could put easily on, slideshows, but I felt like it was important to attach each element of the standard. And I don't know if you need to have an example of each standard, but your project should definitely connect to the standards that JEA offers. So I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions at all, I am available. My email is just Katie, Katie, @organizedadvisor.com. So if you need anything as you put your project together, I'd be happy to take a look at it and give you any feedback that I might have. All right. Good luck, guys. Bye.